Today we are learning basketball with Maurya, studying data science at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Maurya covers the Oklahoma City Thunder and the NBA draft. He's a writer for Swish Theory and an NBA draft writer on SI.com for the Draft Digest. Goes by the Flare Screen on Twitter. How you doing today, Maurya?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. So I know you're just out of classes. How
Mhm.
how'd that go today? How you like studying data science? What interests you about applying analytics to basketball like that?
Yeah, so classes today they weren't too bad. Today's Thursday. I only have two classes, so that was pretty light. It's a pretty light day today. So yeah, like you said, I'm a data science major. I'm pursuing a bachelor of science in data science. Um, it's actually the first year that a data science major is being offered at UTK. They introduced a brand new sub college this year that offers data science as a major. So it's super exciting doing something that's like brand new and something that's in high demand. Like the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, uh, they think that data science is one of the three highest growing fields over the next 10 years. So it's really exciting to be a part of something like that. Um, I was actually initially planning to major in business analytics at UTK, but once I was made aware of the new data science major, I switched over to that since I thought that's what better suited what I want to do with my career and specifically like what I want to do with basketball. Now I'm hoping to apply what I learned in my major towards basketball and hopefully work within basketball analytics one day in any capacity, whether it's like a data scientist, video analytics coordinator, whatever role it may be. I'm just like, trying to find ways to apply my major towards working within basketball. So, right now I'm just working to diversify my skill set, like streamlining, obviously, a specific focus in data science. And already what I'm learning, like my data science classes, I'm only a month and a half into my first year of college, but already what I'm learning, I'm taking two Python classes, another class in R. What I'm learning in those classes, I think I can apply those towards what I do in basketball, like analyzing the NBA, analyzing Thunder, and also like obviously working on the NBA draft, writing about that, analyzing about that. I think like taking what I learned in those classes about like analyzing data, doing data visualization, analyzing data sets. I think I can apply that towards what I'm doing right now within the NBA. Working with Swish Theory, working with SI, just analyzing it on my own time. I think so. I think data science is really cool for that, and it's been a great month and a half to start out my college career.
Sounds like it. I mean, great decision and to hop on this path now as data science continues to blow up and it's cool they've added that major. Back at when I was in college at Florida State, they offered computer science, not quite data science, and that was more of the history of computer science. It would teach C++ programming and kind of some fundamentals that definitely still apply, but not quite modern day coding with languages like Python and R. And both of those skills are vital for an MBA analytics world, being able to visualize data, build pipelines, build apps. Teams and news sources all find that very vital. So you're on the right path for sure. And that's funny. I studied some business as well, so I and minored in computer science while I'm getting my degrees in business management and marketing. So I'm right there with you with kind of applying the sport, thinking that the math side would apply more to the sports management side as well, while
Mhm.
focusing on that. So how long have you been writing for SI.com and the Draft Digest? How did you get into that?
So yeah, SI and Swish I reached out to both initially. I applied for the internship last year as a junior transition to my senior year, and at the time I didn't get it. And then they reached out to me. I wrote some of my own stuff on Substack and stuff, and then I guess Nick Crane, he writes for the Thunder on SI and for Forbes as well, I believe. He liked some of my stuff, so he reached out to me while I was in my second semester senior year. I think in around April or May. So I've been writing for SI. I took the internship. I've been writing for SI Draft Digest on SI for about 6 months now, since around May, I think. That's been great. So what I do for them is I write two 350 to 500 word articles a week. So they're quick hitters. They're not like any. It's not like anything really in depth. I still go in depth on some pieces. Like I wrote about Amen Thompson and how his offensive rebounding, like how he grew as an offensive rebounder, how that's really good growth to see like in his rookie year and applying that towards his future, how that could like indicate future growth. I wrote about Nolan Traore, I tracked off his finishes last season, and I tracked like the percentage of finishes that he finishes with his right hand and his left hand, and how that could be something we look for in the future. So I still do write some in-depth pieces, but most of the time they're quick hitters. Like if there's something on my mind, I just write about that. I write about like grassroots, college, international, G League, and then I cover first year players too. So I write 2 quick hitter stories a week. That's great. Draft digest on that side, that's been a great experience. So shout out to Nick Crane for giving me that internship role. And then for Swish Theory, I think I joined in March. And I just wrote my first article, my first piece on Isaiah Hartenstein and what he can bring to the Thunder offense. I released that on Tuesday, no, Monday. Monday night is when they played their first preseason game. I put that up on Monday morning. Yeah, Matt, I reached out to them initially too, and then Matt, he hit me back and he said he'd love to have me as a part of the team if I'm open to join. And of course, I was down to join immediately. I mean, I think Swish Theory has the best, like bar none, the best like group of writers, group of basketball analysts on NBA Twitter. I think we have the best group of people, the best minds. They're just some amazing people. From like Chip Jones, obviously he founded it. He's one of the co-founders. He worked for the Dallas Mavericks this past offseason. Matt Powers, he's great. Charlie, everyone, Roshan. I mean, you can just name everyone on there. They're great people first and foremost, and then they're also great analysts. So it's honestly amazing just working with the best group of basketball writers on NBA Twitter. I think that's been a great experience, and that's kind of where I can write my more in-depth pieces, like the Isaiah Hartenstein piece and the like draft. I'm sure in the future I'm going to write about the draft on there if I want to make a multi-thousand word piece, a prospect, a player. That's the place that it'll go.
I was about to say, if you need an outlet for the longer in-depth pieces, you came to the right place to balance out the quick hitters at SI, and couldn't agree more. Obviously, this is a podcast under the Swish Theory umbrella, and we're happy to have you. Love all the writers there. Everyone does some amazing work, and really a great place to find in-depth basketball analysis, scouting, kind of the old way, long form writing, none of the clickbait stuff, and just sticking to scouting and breaking down film and really diving deep on a topic as granular as anything. And before we hop to the Hartenstein piece, which I can't wait to break down, he's a huge addition to the Thunder. I got to follow up. I mean, Amen Thompson is absolutely explosive. I mean, he so much to love about him. I mean, he looks like almost maybe not quite running the offense level point forward, but definitely a downhill force, just explosive verticality. One of these guys that actually can fly to the rim with absurd athleticism and has the feel to actually kick out and find teammates, and just a lot to love there. And I want to ask also about Nolan. What are, maybe if you have anything off the top of your head, what skills really stand out to you that you think he might be a top draft pick in this upcoming year?
Yeah, so Amen Thompson, he's easily, like, by far, it's not even close. He's by far my favorite prospect I've ever scouted. Like you mentioned, he's like, maybe besides Victor Wembanyama, he's probably the best athlete I've ever scouted. Not that I've been scouting for long, but even like as I've done like historical tape, I've watched historical tape as I've gone. Like I've watched like Russell Westbrook's tape at UCLA. Like those guys are like incredible athletes, but I think besides Wembanyama, Amen's the best athlete I ever scouted, and to have that level of athleticism and also like be as high feel of a player as he is, it's like crazy. That intersection of athleticism and feel is crazy, and it enables him to do so many things. And it's why I was so high on him. I had him 3 on my 2023 draft board, almost 2. I had Scoot 2, so that should tell you how high I was on Amen. Yeah, I think his rookie season was amazing. Just some people thought like it'd take a while for him to adjust to the NBA. Obviously, because coming from OCE to the NBA, that's a big leap, and that was true. He spent his first half of the season in the G League. The G League obviously opens up in November, so October he spent it with the Rockets. November he went down the G League, and then he got called back up. And he was like, honestly, I wouldn't say like consistently a positive player, but there are nights where he's like a legitimate impact player for the Rockets. They utilize him as sort of a big man. They utilize him in their 4.5 out offense. They had him in the dunker spot. They utilized him as a screener, rolling, and he was great there. Obviously using his athleticism as a play finisher, he was amazing there, and using his feel as like a short roll passer and making decisions on the roll, that was great too. And he had some obviously in the G League, he had some ball. He had all the ball handling reps that he could ever get with the Rockets. That was more limited. but he still with the Rockets he did have a few flashes as a ball handler. There he's a little limited right now. His handle isn't amazing, and obviously he can't really shoot outside of like 6 feet outside the paint. That's gonna have to improve if he ever wants to be a ball handler in the NBA. He has some flashes there, but I love him, and I think his offensive rebounding growth, how he like his offensive rebounding, it's never been a notable trait in his career ever. And when he started out with the Rockets, that was like below average. But not only did that like skyrocket and improve, he by the end of the season was legitimately the best offensive rebounding guard or wing in the NBA. So that type of like skill acquisition in such a short amount of period of time is enabled by that intersection of his length, athleticism, and feel. And I think that's a great indicator for his future. I was talking to Avinash a couple years ago, 100 guaranteed on Twitter, and he just loves offensive rebounding prospects because he thinks that's like the golden intersection of length, athleticism, physicality, feel, spatial awareness, just everything. And that's he believes that that's a really underrated feature in like an indicator of development, of outlier development. He does some great work. I'm a huge fan of his work. So I agree with him. I think that offensive rebounding growth in such a short period of time, people may not traditionally think it connects to like his growth as a ball handler, but I think it is a positive indicator. And yeah, I love him. And with Nolan Traore, yeah, I'm not as high as him. On some people, I know some people have him as like number 2, number 3 best guy in the draft. But I will say he has been impressive these past 3 games. I think he's played 5 or 6 games so far. The first 2 games he was pretty disappointing, but that's normal for 18-year-olds. Getting used to. He's playing in the EuroLeague, I think, or he's playing international. He's playing against some of the best comp in the world. I think just getting adjusted to that, it takes time. And then after those first 2 poor games, he's played really well. He's been showing much more comfort in his jumper, finishing unders, pulling up for 3. That's been great. In the mid range, he's made some shots too. He's been way more efficient, and when getting to the rim, he's been finishing at a better clip at the rim. And the first 2 games, he looked out of pace. He's getting sped up by better competition. He's adjusted to that. His like passing is like his processing, his feel for the game is pretty good. He's been spraying out, hitting guys in the corner. He's been making some nice dump off passes. So he's just gotten adjusted way more. The one question I do have is when driving left, finishing left. That's kind of been a weakness in the past. I'm looking to see if that's more improved right now. I'm tracking that progression throughout the season to see how that looks. I think he's looked a little more comfortable driving left, but obviously tracking that over a larger sample size, that's one thing, because he isn't a standout athlete. Like he's not an above the rim finisher, he's a below the rim athlete, and he's not like an elite shot maker. So being able to finish with both hands is like a really valuable skill for those type of people, especially with someone who applies as much rim pressure he did. But yeah, he's looked way better these past few games. He's way more composed. His shot making has been better. He's getting the rim. He's finishing. He's making good passes. So that's what you want to see.
Yeah, got to keep an eye on him for the upcoming draft class. I mean, like you said, he's been mocked as high as 2, 3, that top 10 lottery range for sure. So he could be a standout skilled prospect. And the way you describe the offensive rebounding and mixing of athleticism and feel, talking with Avinash, instantly made me think of Angel Reese and kind of her standout ability over on the W side. So definitely agree with that kind of combining both the athleticism but also the instincts to know where to track the ball in the air and locate the rebound and load up on the box out, or just with the timing and everything with that. So definitely can see how they're related. And so let's jump over to OKC now and the recent Isaiah Hartenstein article. I mean, this team was already loaded. They won 57 games last year, the Oklahoma City Thunder, second most in the entire league, first in the West. Their coach, Mark Daigneault, won Coach of the Year. They had the second best point differential in the whole league at plus 8.0 behind Boston. They were great on both sides of the ball, third in offense, fourth in defense, and good at kind of 2 categories in the 4 factors more than others. They were third in offensive shooting percentage and third in limiting turnovers, so not turning the ball over themselves, and then 12th in the league, just above average at free throw rate drawing fouls. They were 4th in defensive shooting percentage and 1st in forcing turnovers, and led by their incredible perimeter defense with Lou Dort, Shea, Jalen Williams. and Chet holding his own as a rim protecting anchor. And then all of a sudden they add two of the best defenders in the league in Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein. It's just unbelievable. Hartenstein himself ranked second in DPM. He ranked second in defensive EPM, which is via dunks and threes. And when you go through their list of top overall players via EPM, the overall metric for impact via dunks and threes, his plus 4.7 rating ranks 14th in the whole league of any player, right between superstars like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum. Like his impact and his role was off the charts. And a super interesting backstory. He was born in Oregon, moved to Germany. He did not go to college in the U.S., and he's bounced around the league. He's been on 6 teams, been in the G League for a little bit, once with Houston, but really popped with the Knicks last season when Mitchell Robinson went down and they were looking for help. They picked up Hartenstein in a trade like mid-season, and suddenly he blows up in this defensive anchor role as a passing hub, an elite defender, smart feel, strong screener. And you wrote a deep dive about how he fits so well with the Thunder and what they already do. You know, we mentioned some of the stats already, but he looks to step right in and not just be a defensive anchor for a team that already is full of strong defenders, but also an interesting passing hub that fits right into what they do. So why don't we jump right into the article? I mean, what stands out the most, especially with the offensive fit, because we know the defense should just pop. What skills do you think most he will bring to the offensive side of the ball for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Yeah, I think those are all great points. I think you mentioned a lot of stats. It was, even as a Thunder fan, a little overwhelming. Basically, what you need to know is they're outlierly great last season. They weren't expected to be that good, especially considering their age. They're the like when adjusting for like the minutes played by each player, they're the youngest team in the league. I think San Antonio outright was the youngest team in the league, but when waiting for minutes, the Thunder were the youngest team. So being the number 1 seed, making it to the second round, that while being that young, they're the youngest team to win a playoff series. That's pretty crazy. So they were outlierly great last year. One thing they did miss, and one thing everyone pointed out all season, and something that did hurt them in the playoffs against Dallas, was the rebounding. I personally wasn't worried about the rebounding limiting them as other people were, but it did hurt them against Dallas. I don't think that's what lost them the series, but size, rebounding were the two things that everyone pointed out all year that hurt them, and they went out, they fixed it with the Hartenstein signing, right? They got a guy who's like a legit 7 foot, 250 pounds, whatever. He sets hard screens. He's very physical. He's lengthy. He's one of the best rebounders in the NBA. Less so on the defensive glass compared to the offensive glass, where he's like one of the top 3 people crashing the offensive glass in the NBA. So they went out and they got that. So that fixes the one argument they had against them last year. So what he brings on offense is just, like you said, strong feel, great, sets hard screens, really physical, strong field player. Offensively, I think he brings a new dimension to them, right? I think last year against Dallas in the playoffs, they kind of stagnated a little bit because they were so dependent on ghost-to-ghost screens to get them advantages. So once teams kind of locked in on that and really scouted that department, that dimension of their offense, it wasn't as effective. So their offense kind of stagnated because their whole thing is ghost guard to guard, ghost screens, guard to guard screens, and drive and kick offense. So once their guard to guard screens weren't working, it was kind of just drive and kick offense depending on Shea. And so it was a lot of ISO ball to try and create advantages, and that stagnated their offense. Shea, he still created offense at a tremendous level. You know, he's one of the best players in the playoffs, but Jalen Williams, he kind of struggled to create in isolation on volume like that. And also on drives, just their one dimension of driving being drive and either get a bucket or drive and kick. So Dallas knew where to send help on their drives, and then they knew where they would OKC would kick the ball out, where OKC would kick the ball out to. So they knew where to help on drives and then where to recover. So that kind of stagnated their offense too. So they just depended on ISO ball a lot. And I think Hartenstein helps them in 2 ways. One, he gives them a new dimension on drives. Obviously, when he's in the dunker spot, he moves a lot in the dunker spot. He doesn't just stay still. He finds openings, finds little wrinkles in defense where he can get a dump off and finish with the floater. So now it's just not drive and kick. You got Hartenstein there in the dunker spot. You can just dump it off to him, and he has like that 60% floater that he can convert with. We're also bringing motion offense. And New York, he's the hub of their offense, like at the top of the key in delay, and one of the ball handlers, one of the players would pass him the ball, and then they were initiated their delay actions with him at the top of the key, passing the cutters, passing the guys coming off screens with his handoffs. With his screening and his passing is super valuable. So I think he brings a new dimension to OKC with his delay with his delay offense, with his motion offense. I think we've already seen that in these two preseason games. He's handled the ball a lot. Like maybe Shea or J-Dub, their usage may decline a little bit, but I think it'll help them overall because we've seen in these two preseason games, he's got the ball at the top of the key, initiating a delay action. He's hit cutters. He's hit guys coming off screens. He's throwing a pass to Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams comes off the screen. It's a three. I think he really helps them diversify. He helps OKC diversify their offense in that regard. And it's kind of an organic way to boost their shooting volume and their shooting versatility too. Because in that Dallas series, more so what hurt them, like rebounding obviously hurt them, but I think more what hurt them was their lack of shooting volume and their lack of shooting versatility. Because they did finish first in the regular season 3-point percentage last year, but they were like 16th, 17th in volume, I think maybe worse. And most of them were like open catch and shoot looks that they're generating in the regular season. So once Dallas keyed in on that and they sort of sent like hard closeouts toward them, they made them shoot over closeouts, or they limited their catch and shoot. They limited like their open catch and shoots. They had OKC. Once Dallas did that, OKC had kind of a struggle converting looks, and their 3-point percentage there really it really went down. So I think bringing Hartenstein in, kind of like integrating more movement threes, like more handoff threes, more coming off screen threes. I think that really organically improves their shooting versatility. Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, I think these are all guys who are capable of hitting threes, coming off screens, coming off handoffs. So adding Hartenstein, adding motion offense, I think that's a way to organically increase 3-point volume and increase shooting versatility, which should help that percentage translate to the playoffs. And that was a big focus this offseason. Coach Mark has talked about Jalen Williams upping his volume twice already. And Chet Holmgren himself has talked about how he's tweaked his jump shot to be able to shoot a higher versatility of shots. He talked about that in media day. So right there, Hartenstein, he fixes two issues. He fixes the lack of size, the lack of rebounding, and he also adds an element of motion offense that organically boosts shooting volume. So I think that's the basis of what makes that addition so valuable.
Right, exactly. You get into the article and hit all these points, and especially how there's some obvious goals by bringing in Hartenstein. Win the non-Chet minutes because Chet's already an incredible shot blocker, defensive anchor, and he's also got a little Kristaps unicorn to his offensive game. So he kind of offers a versatility where maybe he could play some 4 and some double big lineups, and also Hartenstein, they can also be staggered, almost like always having a starting level point guard in the game. The Thunder will always have a starting level defensive anchor big man in the game, being able to stagger, and also that lineup flexibility, having a more traditional big against rebounding teams where maybe Chet does a lot of things well, but muscle strength rebounding isn't quite there yet against the traditional fives. So Hartenstein provides that option to kind of be able to play the matchup. And while doing that, you mentioned some steal numbers where the Thunder are already graded steals, and Hartenstein ranks really highly as a center that racks up steals. I was catching his 2 preseason games so far, and it, noted once where he was like the last defender back, and yet he still ran the floor and timed up a steal in transition just perfectly. Like it's almost like the offensive player never saw him. He beats the guy, quick steal there. I want to say he had 6 assists in the opening game as well, where he's doing some playmaking right off the bat. He's throwing lobs to Chet, so we're getting some big to big alley oops already. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. And I think his passing, especially on offense, really stands out. You note some high processing skills. He thrives in chaos. He's a good connective passer. He's a mean floater weapon where he can constantly use footwork to stay active in the paint, get a little space, and then drop a little floater real quick on the competition. And you highlight his court mapping, where he's able to just process everything on the run, and really underline the DHO hub, his strong screening. And I thought this sentence stood out. This intersection of screening, passing, driving, and finishing is what enables the offense to be run at a high level through Hartenstein and delay series while maintaining a 5-out alignment, where the idea of 5-out is you have 5 players that can shoot and space the floor, but if you use a big man at the top of the key as a strong screener DHO hub, you still have that effect where you're pretty much forcing the defender to either honor it as a passer or just play drop defense and sag off, and you can attack them in different ways. So, for the listener, real quick, could you kind of go into 3 concepts from the article, just what delay or the open series is, and then the 4.5 out concept and the 5 slot concept, and how Hartenstein should be able to jump right into those things. And you touched on it already with delay, but just all the different variations that come with the delay series that you also noted is a popular play for like the Warriors with Draymond at the top of the key, where they'll just run 50 different actions underneath as Draymond waits for it all, processes it as a smart playmaker, and makes the right read.
Yeah, so delays, it's essentially a variation of 5-out. 5-out is obviously 5 players at the top of the perimeter. So in delay, you have the big at the top of the key, and you have 4 players on the perimeter around him, and you run actions around that big. So it's initiated with the pass to the big at the top of the key, and like you said, they just run a bunch of actions on the top of like anywhere on the court outside, like next to the big man. Like the Warriors do it. The Heat use delay a lot with Bam. Obviously, he's one of the best big man passers in the NBA. With Hartenstein, the Knicks used it a lot last year. So when you have a high field, high processing player like Hartenstein, you can basically mimic 5-out with delay by having that big at the top of the key and then running actions around him. So you can run pin downs, you can run flare screens, you can run actions like to have a player cut. You can really do anything. I noted like a bunch of different actions in my article. You can have a player coming off the screen. You can have a player flaring a screen. You can run zoom action, which is coming off. A player comes off the screen, you pass the ball to them, and then they run into a pick and roll. Or you can just do Chicago, which is a player comes off a screen and just runs shit into a handoff. You can do a bunch of different actions like that. Out of like all this movement, cuts open up just like general cutting opportunities. Like Josh Hart benefited a lot of that. Whether it's like the screen or just slipping a screen or a player rejecting a screen and then cutting, just so many general cutting opportunities open up. And when you have a big like Hartenstein who can pass, process actions like that, you can just hit him on the fly. So yeah, that's basically what delay is. And in order to run delay, you need a big who can process actions, who can process the floor. Obviously, Hartenstein is that. So I think like I talked about, he brings that element to OKC. So I think that's all that there is with delay. Obviously, like you said, Hartenstein, he's not a shooter. He shot 30% on like very low volume, like 0.4 attempts his entire career. But he can mimic playing 5-out offense as a big with that intersection of screening, passing, and driving. Obviously, with his passing is required in delay action, and then his screening, like in dribble handoffs, that's really valuable. I noted that in my article, and also driving, like when big sag off of him. You just can't do that as a big for 2 reasons. One, if you're sagging off of Hartenstein, he can just run a DHO, like he can flip it, run a DHO, and that shooter coming off this like the dribble handoff, he has an open 3, or he can attack that big off the dribble. And another reason you can't just sag if you're a big defending Hartenstein is he's a very capable driver. He can put the ball on the floor, he can attack you. I added clips in the article where he attacks Joel Embiid, he attacks Nicholas Claxton, he attacks Evan Mobley off the dribble, and he gets buckets at the rim. Like he has like very sneaky movement skills. You might not look at him and think he's a great mover, but he has like great movement skills. He has good ball skills, so he can put the ball on the floor, he can drive, and he can get a bucket, or he can drive, he can get some help. He tracks some help, he can kick it out. So if you're a big, even if Hartenstein isn't like a traditional shooter, you can't just sag off of him. You have to respect him. So that's how the Thunder add Hartenstein. They add motion offense, and they still maintain their 5-out alignment from last year. And 4.5 out and 5 slot. You mentioned those two. I think those are 2 great alignments in minutes where you have both Hartenstein and Chet sharing minutes together. 4.5 out is basically 5 out, but it's just the player in the corner pinching in towards the baseline. They're pinching in towards the dunker spot. That's the best way to think of it. So if you have Holmgren and you have Hartenstein, you can have you can have Chet Holmgren on the perimeter. Obviously, spacing is very valuable. You can have him on the wing. You can have Hartenstein in the corner, but instead of playing in the corner, you can have him pinch in towards the baseline, pinch in towards the dunker spot, and that way you have someone who can hit on dump off passes. You can hit him with the lob if you drive, and then help comes. I think that's really beneficial. I think that's a great way to run double big lineups. At Bowser to Bowser on Twitter, he's the person who gave that alignment the nickname 4.5 out. He has some great stuff that I linked in the article that you can check out if you want to learn more about it. The thing that's most beneficial about 4.5 out is it promotes a healthy balance of rim attempts and 3-point attempts. Because if you get in, like say the whole OKC's whole thing is drive and kick, right? Drive and get an advantage and kick it out. Having Hartenstein in the dunker spot in 4.5 out means that if you drive and the player off of Hartenstein, like the opponent's rim protector, they help. That's an easy dump off, right? The traditional counter to that is having the player in the corner tag Hartenstein, right, in the dunker spot, and then take away that dump off pass. But with 4.5 out, there's no one in the corner, like next to Hartenstein to tag to tag Hartenstein. It's just the empty weak side corner. So you have to have someone from the wing come and tag Hartenstein, and that's a much longer rotation from the corner. So that takes more time. But even if the wing player does make that rotation, the offensive player on the wing just goes into that empty weak side corner, and then it's a wide open kick out three for Shea or Jada, whoever's driving. So that creates like a high volume of like either you dump it off the head, you have an easy dump off pass, or an open empty weak side corner is open and you just kick it out to there. You spray it out there. It's an open three. So that's pretty much the basis of why 4.5 out generates this high quality offense. That's just like the basis. Atlanta, they ran a lot of five slot, which I'll get into. They ran 4.5 out too. 5 slot is basically in traditional 5 out. You have like it's 5 slot. I want to say it's a variation of 5 out and it's a variation of delay too. Traditionally, you have the top of the big at the top of the key in delay. In delay you have a big at the top of the key. In 5 slot, the big is instead in the slot, right? So what happens there is it's harder for the big man on Hartenstein to rotate and protect the rim because instead of being at the top of the key, the rim protector is at the slot. The slot is in between the top of the key and the wing, and that makes it a longer rotation from the rotate and protect the rim at the rim. That basically it compromises the opponent's rim protection. So 5 slot, that's another alignment. That's another variation of 5 out, another variation of delay. The Hawks, they introduced it in the preseason last year, right? This really wasn't like anything NBA teams ran in previous years. It wasn't like no team ran it in previous years. This is something that the Hawks introduced, and they kind of revolutionized it. They introduced it in the preseason, and basically what it is, it's like basically the goal of 5 slot is to compromise opposing defense's rim protection and rotations. Compromising an opponent's rim protection, it obviously bumps the offense's rim attempts and does rim pressure, which also leads to more open kick out threes. And at Bowser also, like he's the first person to notice this. He tweeted about it last season in October, and he made like an entire thread about it. He made an entire piece about it on his own website. You should go check that out. I linked it in the article too. So 5 slot unlocks all this just by placing the center at the far slot instead of the top of the key, where the big is usually in delay. Obviously, the big is at the top of the key in delay. So instead in 5 slot, the center is at the far slot. And what this does is that placing your offensive center in the slot also places the opposing team center there, which means that their opposing team center, which is usually their primary rim protector, instead of being at the top of the key or in the dunker spot, they're at the far slot. So that's a longer rotation to cover and like protect the rim, and that's how the opposing team's rim protector is compromised and their rim protection is compromised. So instead, what they have to do is they have to send their low man, which is the defender guard in the corner. They either have to send their low man over to rotate and help at the rim, which is usually a guard or a wing that's significantly worse at rim protection, or they just have to act their center at the far slot to just make the long rotation and live with the results, right? So that's how 5 slot compromises the opposing team's rim protection. And even if they just ask their center to make the long rotation and live with the results, it's not that easy, because when that center at the far slot makes that rotation and goes to the rim to help at the rim to protect the rim, that opens up a 45 cut, which is a variation of a cut that opens up the center at the far slot to cut and finish at the rim, especially someone like Hartenstein who has great movement skills, who has great finishing touch. That opens up a lane for them to cut and then finish at the rim, and then the ball handler can just dump it off to him, and he can finish either at the rim or with a 60% floater at like the 15-foot range. And so that's how 5 slot basically compromises an opposing team's rim protector, and this can improve the team's finishing. Like OKC, they're first in drives, but they're only 16th in rim attempts. So introducing 5 slot is a way to, again, organically bump rim attempts on drives. And this generates rim pressure, and obviously rim pressure generates open threes. So as defenses may find tweaks, they might find ways to help and protect the rim. That just opens kick out threes, open threes, which obviously I mentioned that's something OKC needs to get better at. They need to become a higher volume shooting team to be a better 3-point shooting team in the playoffs. So this is how 5-slot compromises opposing defensive rim protection rotations, thus leading to better rim attempts and also better 3-point attempts. A bunch of teams used it last season. Initially, Atlanta, like I said, they introduced it in preseason. Boston caught on. They started using it. They used it in the playoffs. In Minnesota, they caught on with double bigs in Rudy and Cat. They used it last season in the playoffs. And it's just a really great way to integrate double big lineups. So OKC can kind of mimic this with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. And I think just overall, 4.5 and 5-slot are 2 great ways to integrate double big lineups.
That's great stuff. I appreciate the breakdown there and helping the listeners understand a few different sets that are breaking their way into the league a little more. Like you said, it really helps double bigs take advantage of what they're good at, and especially the ones just with just a little bit of feel to make the right read once they get the rock. So one last question for you. The Thunder were just the 1 seed. They just won 57 games, already had the second best point differential, and they just had 2 of the best defenders in the league. Chet's now going to be in his second year of actually playing. Shea's a perennial MVP guy. Jalen Williams, all-star, co-star on the rise. Are they making the finals? Is this the year the Thunder are in the finals, and are they hitting 60 wins? They had 57 last year. Are they good for 3 more wins in a finals appearance this year?
Yeah, obviously as a Thunder fan, I have to say I think they're hitting 60 wins. I think they're making it to the finals. I can't say anything else.
All right.
But also even removing the biases, I think just how much Hartenstein helps diversify their offense, how much he can help boost rim attempts, how much he can organically boost their 3-point volume, I think. And then the internal development of Shea, Jalen Williams, Casey Wallace, these guys will continue to improve. I think it's kind of inevitable they hit 60 wins and they'll make it to the finals. Yeah, I think so.
I love it. This should definitely be a special season for Oklahoma City fans. It'd be nice to be back in the finals, first time since Durant, Harden, and Westbrook years ago, putting them on the map. And, I mean, this is the group to do it. I really appreciate your time, Maurya. Thanks for breaking everything down with us. Go find his work at Draft Digest for SI.com and his Isaiah Hartenstein article on Swish Theory. Thank you all for learning basketball. I'm your host, Beyond the RK, Ryan Kaminsky. Find me on Twitter, Substack, YouTube. Thanks for listening.
With Ryan.
Learning Basketball is a Swish Theory podcast, hosted from Beyond the RK. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's website, theswishtheory.com.